Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Buckeye Weekly Podcast. I'm Tony Gerdeman, here as always with Tom. How's it going?
Tony, it is another breaking news podcast, and this is one where two guys are coming back and they haven't left, but also it's big news that they're coming back. One guy's leaving, and then we also have some news of some consequence as well. I don't know, Tony, which one do you want to do first?
Well, let's do this. Jeremiah Smith and Carnell Tate are back. Defensive tackle Hero Kanu is headed to the portal. We'll talk about that. But first, Tom, what's our news?
So our news is we are writing a book, and it is something that you and I have talked about, I think, literally every season since I came back to the beat in 2017. And it's something I've wanted to do forever. And we keep saying, well, when they win a national championship, and certainly they will win a national championship at some point, we should do a book. And we've gotten to the point where we have like outlines and stuff, and then it hasn't happened for years and years and years. Tony, they won the national championship. We get to write a book.
Finally, we will get that out. And Tom, how much information do we want to throw out there in terms of what do we want to tell the people right now, or should we just hold off for now?
Why don't we tell them? Why don't we tell them the title? Because
Okay.
the title is 30, the number 3, the number 0, 30 Days to Glory. And then if you go to 30daystoGlory.com or find that on any of your major social platforms, you can, if you go to the website, you can put in your information and we will send you a whole bunch more. As soon as we have more news to share, we're still figuring out. We know what we want to do. We're still figuring out exactly how and where we want to do it, but we know this is going to be kind of like a, I don't know, is it like a coffee table book? Do people have coffee tables anymore? We got like insane reaction to just the photos that I posted from the national championship game. And it's like, well, people would like photos, apparently. People seem to enjoy photos. And so we're going to have lots of photos, plenty of writing, some inside stories. You keep hearing Ryan Day talk about the amazing stories on this team. Can confirm some amazing stories on this team, some behind the scenes stuff, all that kind of good stuff. But Tony, we're not doing like the whole season. We're not doing Ohio State football 1890 to the present. As the title might suggest, Tony, we are focusing on a narrower portion of the season.
Yes, the 30 days of the postseason, the most memorable part of the season. So check that out, the 30daystoGlory.com, and we'll have more information for you as we produce it. So now, Tom,
The second biggest news of the day, Jeremiah Smith returning to Ohio State.
Yeah, tweeting out that in the way the kids do it now with like emoticons and things and things of that nature. Yes, he alludes to being back. Carnell Tate, who was rumored to be headed to Oregon, then also Texas. He also tweets out some things alluding to his return. And again, this is one of those things where they didn't go anywhere, but they could have. Certainly, anybody on this team could have, and gotten some good money to do so. But now getting both of those guys back, now whoever is the quarterback in 2025 for the Buckeyes has their two outside receivers covered, and whoever that quarterback is, will have the best pair of outside receivers in the nation. I'm going to say bar none.
Yeah, this is a pretty good start to Ohio State's offseason, and they're certainly losing a bunch of guys, and they're losing one guy that they weren't necessarily expecting to, and we'll get to Hero Kanu in a little bit, but there was certainly some question in terms of our guys returning. No one's on a multi-year contract in college, so everyone's a free agent at the end of every season, and you would certainly understand. I think there's a little bit of a natural, okay, you got to the mountaintop, now, what next kind of feeling. And it would be natural for guys to say, you know what, I got this team. I said I came here to get this team a national championship, to get Ryan Day a national championship. And now I've done that, and now I'm going to go chase a bigger contract somewhere. And that's unquestionably, these guys are getting offers of more money to go play somewhere else. But there's also, at this point, you've built pretty good relationships in Columbus, and you want to play for, if you're a wide receiver, you want to play for Brian Hartline, and you want to play in a Ryan Day offense, and you have this is home at this point for these guys. So it's not that these guys were out the door and then came back like Bryson Rodgers did last year, but also it would have been enormous news had they left, and there was at least some scuttlebutt that they were being pursued by other teams. What is it? On3 had the one of their like big bold letter graphics, and it was Tampa or something like that. And you're getting, they weren't in the portal, but they were certainly getting pursued as if they were in the portal. So the fact that they're coming back, even if it is just Carnell, Tate posting like an emoji of crossed fingers, and Jeremiah Smith posting the 100 emoji, it's like, yeah, welcome to 2025. This is news now.
Yes, it is. And it is worth discussing, because the alternative would be disastrous for Ohio State. So now you've got your number one X returning in Jeremiah Smith. You've got your number one Z returning in Carnell Tate. And the guys behind them can then kind of ease into things. And, we know Brandon Innes and Bryson Rodgers are back, and they'll compete in the slot, and there'll probably be room for both of those guys. But without Smith or Tate, the outside receivers are very, very thin. And you're talking about basically the 2024 recruiting class, which is Demarion Witten and Mylan Graham. And then the 2025 recruiting class, you got a guy like Quincy Porter, who's a 5-star guy who has advanced. And that's, I put a 2 deep together, the very first 2 deep on the Buckeye Huddle message board. I do it every year. At some point after the season, I'm like, I'm just going to do it. And then there's going to be departures. And about 20 minutes into writing it, Quinshon Judkins declares for the draft, and I didn't see it for another 20 minutes after I'm trying to get this whole thing done. So I post it, and it's like, hey, it's already out of date. I'm like, thank you. Great. Love the feedback, as always. But it's constantly being updated. And today of all days, I decided to do it, and that's the day everybody's announcing everything. So it's like, does the world hate me? Yes, the world does.
Hey, understandable. I think we can all relate to the world a little bit at different times, at different levels. But yeah, this is the time of year when everyone wants to, turn the page to next year, and what's it going to look like? And it's like, well, it depends. There are still some guys who have to make NFL draft decisions, and there are still, there are guys who are posting departures, and we saw Denzel Burke and Jordan Hancock and Emeka Ibuka. I mean, all guys who you knew were going because they're out of eligibility. But it still feels slightly newsworthy, because it's like, okay, this guy is acknowledging that he doesn't have any secret eligibility left. Because sometimes you wonder if there might be another year, somewhere in the back of the, like you're rummaging around your glove box looking for some mints or something. It's like, oh, another year of eligibility. Like, that's kind of how it works right now. So you are sort of checking guys off the list. Okay, this guy that we know is going to leave is in fact leaving. This guy who there's never been any serious indication he was going to depart, he's coming back. And then we're still waiting on decisions. There's guys like Davis and Igbinosun, for example, who will probably make a decision public at some point in the next 5 minutes to 24 hours. And we'll probably have another show when that happens. But, so you're still waiting on some of these guys. But, as you said, the 2 guys coming back in terms of wide receivers, that checks a couple big boxes off, because you got some, Mylan Graham, 5-star guy. Quincy Porter, 5-star guy. They've got other receivers coming in the 25 class as well. What this does is this takes some of the pressure off those guys, where if you've got Jeremiah Smith, you've got Carnell Tate, you got Brandon Innes on the inside, you've got Bryson Rodgers, as you said, then the younger guys, they can be backups. They can come in and work their way into the rotation, and you're not relying on a true freshman to come in and immediately play an enormous role. Because unless that freshman's name is Jeremiah Smith, that's probably not a realistic thing to assume about a true freshman. So we'll continue to follow that over the course of the spring and see who else is kind of making a push there. But that's at least some positive news for Ohio State. Boy, Tony, after such a long, difficult week for Ohio State, in which they've only won one national championship, finally, Tony, some good news.
Finally, some good news. And in terms of the receivers, because I know everybody's going to be asking, I mentioned Demarion Witten, and everybody's always asking about tight end. He is a wide receiver. The plans are to keep him at wide receiver. That's what he's working at. That's where he wants to be. That's where, if you ask him, that's where it's more fun to play. So that's where he is for now. Moving to now the bad news, Tom. Way to work everybody up. Now the bad news. Hero Kanu, redshirt sophomore defensive tackle from California by way of Germany by way of California, he is headed to the portal. A guy who was a reserve nose tackle, can play both spots, was playing this year and was getting some good minutes, but when you're playing behind Ty Hamilton and Tyleik Williams, it's hard to find a bunch of minutes, and also splitting reps with sophomore Caden McDonald. Playing time was not maybe as plentiful as he would have hoped, even though he's pretty new to the game and still relatively young. But that two deep that I had him at nose tackle or Caden McDonald putting together a two deep. And with him out now, boy, this is that thins some things out, or else you're going to have to get, Tywone Malone, Jason Moore, Will Smith, Eric Mensah, maybe somebody can slide over and be that second nose tackle, because right now it's not the deepest group.
It's not the deepest group, and he was not, he played basically the same number of snaps as Tywone Malone, through the Rose Bowl. That's the most recent snap count I could pull up just now. He was 20 snaps ahead of Tywone Malone through 14 games. So very similar numbers. And they played pretty similar substitution patterns, where it was a few more for Hero Kanu later in the season, but he had pretty clearly fallen behind Caden McDonald there at that nose tackle position. Was not likely to be the guy who got the most snaps at nose tackle next year. And he's someone who's good enough to play a whole lot of places. Like he was at least going to be a rotational guy for Ohio State next year at the very least, and probably, he was someone who came in goal line situations, for example. You'd see him situationally used there this year. Not someone who was playing an absolute ton, but someone who's probably going to have a bigger role next year. And Ohio State is certainly bringing in a big defensive line class. I think they have 6 defensive linemen coming in. And so you've got, you have other people to throw in there just in terms of bodies. And Edric Houston is probably changing the picture on the inside of that defensive line a little bit, kicking inside when he moved inside from defensive end to that 3-tech spot. But you're losing your top 4 defensive linemen this year. You're losing all 4 of those senior starters. So this is a spot where they don't have a ton of depth to play with. And as far as the inside, Hamilton, Tyleik Williams, obviously by far the most snaps, Caden McDonald the next, Edric Houston right after that. Those are going to be almost certainly your starting Caden McDonald at nose and Edric Houston at the 3-tech, almost certainly your 2 starters. After that, Tywone Malone, Jason Moore, Will Smith, Eric Mensah, those guys really did not play. None of them played even 100 snaps this year. Jason Moore played the most, Tywone Malone played the most, and then Jason Moore and Will Smith really did not play much in the back half of the season. So there's a little bit of depth of question, at least there. We'll see how those freshmen come in. If those freshmen are ready to come in and ready to play, even one of them playing 10 snaps a game next year, that would probably be enough if everyone stays healthy. But if everyone stays healthy is a pretty big caveat to throw on there.
It certainly is. And they're bringing in 3 defensive tackles in the 2025 class, and you're going to be asking something from somebody, and they're good, but it's how often do you see a true freshman get involved? And Tyleik Williams played quite a bit as a true freshman, and maybe if they can get somebody like that, if they can get that kind of production from whomever, that would be good. But there you go. Hero Kanu off to the portal. There are some guys on the team, but they need to step up. And then the thing is, how many of those guys saw a true freshman move past them, change positions and move past them in Edric Houston, and are like, well, this is not going to work out for me. So that's also the era that we're living in the portal. And also, the idea that everybody is a free agent and every agent can be contacted by a school, and that school can say, your guy's running fourth. We can get him up to second or first. Does he want to play and make more money? Because those are two pretty enticing things. So that is the age we live in now, and there you go. Hero Kanu off to the portal. Jeremiah Smith and Carnell Tate, through emoji, announced that they are returning and not go. I'm not even going to say returning. They're not going anywhere. That's a better thing. So there you go. If you can hit the thumbs up if you're watching on YouTube before you go, hit the bell to be notified when we drop videos like this or go live. Just subscribe to the channel if you've not yet done so, and continue to find us at BuckeyeHuddle.com. Right now, we are still in the midst of getting championship confetti out to our members. So if you would like some of that championship confetti from the win over Notre Dame, you can get so much. You have to be a member, and we've got a thread there on the board, the Buckeye Huddle message board presented by Jeff Freebies Columbus. And if you take a look at that thread, and it has your instructions on how to request your very own pieces, your own collection of the confetti from the championship game. So thank you all for tuning in, and we'll talk to you guys later.